Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Tez Talks Radio. It's myself, your host, Marissa True, and I'm joined with my co-host, William Mackenzie, who's currently sat in the dark webcamless box. And it's also my pleasure to introduce today's guests, which is Ruanth, a returning guest. He is from Metarupa, as well as Gabby Dizon, who is the co-founder of Yield Guild Games. And so to prime our audience a bit into the discussion today, which is going to delve pretty deep into the world of blockchain and tokenized gaming, Gabby, I'd love for you to introduce what Yield Guild Games is and what its mission is.
Sure. So Yield Guild is what we call a play-to-earn gaming guild, and there's a lot of definitions to unpack there. So we are a guild or a community of players that invest in NFTs. So the guild itself is set up as a DAO that has its own funds. We invest in NFTs in different blockchain games and virtual worlds, and then we use these NFTs to lend them out to our player base. They play these games, the most prominent of which is Axie Infinity. They earn some rewards from them, and these rewards are can be turned into fiat, and our players can basically earn money from playing these games. So play to earn itself is not that new. Like there are games before, like World of Warcraft, where you can earn some money, but they were never really kind of above board parts of the terms of service. You weren't really allowed to cash out in games before, and now with the assets of these games or on chain where you can trade them and where some of the rewards can be tokens that are freely tradable. Now the economy of these games are externalized to the point where you can exchange them for real money with and buy food for the table. So this is a new phenomenon, and we're currently the largest gaming guild in the world with over 50,000 members, and we have close to 5,000 people, or what we call scholars, playing Axie Infinity and using our Axie teams, our NFTs, to earn an income.
That's awesome. And before we dig into the conversation further, Ruanth, I'd love for you to share a bit more about Metarupa and what its mission is as well.
Yes, thank you. So Metarupa is the first Indonesian collective that ventured into the metaverse together, and we came together and decided to start an NFT agency. So we guide other people into the metaverse to navigate it, and especially brands, and we're getting into museums to guide their way into the metaverse.
That's awesome. So to basically dig our first layer into this blockchain gaming topic, I'd like to ask Gabby, YGG, you just recently completed a token sale and you raised, correct me if I'm wrong, 12.5 million USDC in probably a record 30 seconds. So can you share a little bit about what this funding is going to go towards, and also just how you felt given that's massive success?
Yeah, that was a really crazy moment. And yeah, we did raise the 12.5 million in 30 seconds. Like we knew demand was going to be strong, but honestly, like we were kind of blown away just by how everything happened. And like the reason for all of this and us launching the token now is that we are 10 months old as a community. We didn't want to launch with a token because we felt like a lot of people, if we launched immediately with a token, would be too, I would say, fixated on a token price. But we didn't want to launch it too late either, because one of the core philosophies we have is that we want our guild members to be owners of the protocol, which means they need to have ownership of the token. So we needed to do the public sale as part of price discovery. We wanted to know what the market would value our activities as a guild, basically. And from there, we've actually reserved 45% or almost half of the token supply to be given out to the guild in what we call community mining. So it's not liquidity mining similar to DeFi. It's going to be actions that guild members can do, such as playing games, building community, helping other people out in the games that we're playing, that accrue value to the community, and that's how they're going to earn tokens. So yeah, so 45% of the token supply is going to go out to guild members in this way. And for us, it goes more than like we want people to make money. We if kind of if blockchain gaming or if play to earn is the new form of the gig economy, how can we reshape it such that the people who are doing the work actually have long-term upside? Imagine if the Uber driver actually got some early equity, like Uber stock. If one when they did rides before, then they wouldn't be hustling for by the hour up to now, right? So that's kind of the question we're trying to solve. And I would say it's very like there's a very philosophical bent, and it goes just beyond like people merely earning some money while doing some tasks.
Awesome. I actually really like that Uber analogy. But I guess on top of funding, where would you say most of the interest that you all are seeing is coming from? Would you say it's predominantly a mainly institutional focus or lots of retail as well?
Yeah, so the amazing thing that has really surprised me and blown me away is that there has been strong demand on both the institutional and retail
Mhm.
sides. A lot of the retail are basically interested in NFTs and the metaverse, right? And I mean, also it's also in the institutional side, but what the institutional side sees that we're building what is basically the index for the metaverse that is going to be built on top of blockchain. So if you believe that the metaverse is going to be a thing, there's going to be some games that are going to be on top. There's going to be some games that might not make it, but we are going to invest in all of them and have our community play these assets. So what happens over the long term is that Yale Guild actually becomes the index for the metaverse, and that's just a compelling story to a lot of institutional investors.
That's a very long-term vision. I like it. You're
Yeah, yeah,
basically
yeah.
thinking a few steps
I'm
ahead.
I'm here for probably the next 10 to 15 years at the very least, building Yield Guild, like where we are now versus what people think the metaverse is in a Ready Player One, for example. Like we're so far away, and that vision really excites me. I want to build the metaverse that my kids will be working out of, will be inhabiting. And yeah, like I'm not here just to make money for the next 2 to 3 years.
No, I dig that a lot. And then Ruanth, you had a slightly different path into the world of blockchain gaming because you were generally more involved in NFTs when it came to the art space. So what was it that drew you into the underlying potential of NFT gaming? So what was the light bulb moment that you couldn't ignore?
Well, I gave up gaming some time ago because a bunch some some close family members and friends said you got to focus. So blockchain was my way of focusing. It gave me like because I'm just a nerd. I love techie stuff, and so I got into that. I was like, hey, you can make a bit of money from this, maybe. And then I did make a bit of money from it. I was like, ha, told you so. So they're like, all right, fine, keep doing it. It's good. And I because I work in the film industry, I think it was natural that I gravitated towards the arts first. But I think any guy who's a nerd has some sort of gamer part to him. Like, I play chess to the latest Battlefield to, like the Total War series. And it's just, I love games. So, I peeked into the dark side and then I discovered that uh, there's blockchain gaming. I was like, oh, of course, that makes so much sense. And I actually landed onto Sandbox first because, well, actually, I landed into metaverses first, meta worlds, crypto voxels, and I was like, wow, this is great. They're building whole worlds on top of blockchains, and looking for collectibles, I found Sandbox, and I thought, man, this is great. Minecraft on the blockchain. Why would someone not invest in that? So they do land sales, and I quickly jumped on. Coincidentally enough, it was the day before they had another wave of land sale, and within 8 seconds they sold out. Much like YGG, I guess, but. I didn't get any land at first, so I was super frustrated. I left the computer for about an hour, and someone messaged me an hour later saying, "Hey, there's still land available. but it's premium, which is like 4 times the price. Do you want to get it? I was like, yes, screw it. Let me just trade some more ETH and let's get it. So I got it, and yeah, that's my first NFT game blockchain collectible. So I mean, I'm a big believer in the blockchain games and this new play to earn model, because it's like Gabby said. I think in games prior, there were a lot of in-game items that, when if you think about it in real world money, fiat, it's worth a lot. You know, especially when they go up on marketplaces, whether it's skins or some sort of perk to that game. Um, I don't know if I'm frozen.
I still hear you. I still have you
Okay,
there.
sorry.
Yeah,
I
you're
see.
good.
I see. All right. So I think, but it was never, like Gabby said, you can never take it out. You could never really trade it into real fiat unless you went into some marketplace and some third party. They didn't always allow that. So I think blockchain games is going to revolutionize how people see the gaming industry as a whole. And I mean, the gaming industry, as we all know, is very successful. It I think it annually earns more than the film and the music industry combined. So I'm excited to see what blockchain games brings into the gaming industry, especially when like Gabby said with the Uber example, you essentially become an early investor of that game. And I really like your model, Gabby, investing in everything and see which one works out. That's a great model.
In the best things, not everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, the best
The
thing.
spray and pray tactic, just hoping that
Yeah.
like at least a few of them will succeed. But I think it's awesome that it's basically childhood Ruanth's dream come true a little later down the line, enabled by technology. And I think the thing that we've touched on a lot so far in this conversation is this play to earn model, and the fact that tokenized gaming's been in the spotlight because of things like Axie Infinity, and also because of games like Minecraft and what that's enabling in terms of access to fiat currency in hyperinflated economies like Venezuela. The fact that people are using these games less as a game but more as a tool to actually get access to what they need in the real world. So I just want to get a sense from both of you about what other opportunities you guys see this sort of gaming model, or even just blockchain game generally, actually creating. Like, what do we see next?
Okay, so I see just playing games as a slice of like what is available for people in the metaverse. I think the next wave of the creator economy is really going to be enabled by these virtual worlds, meaning that it's not simply just as a player as you're doing with Axie Infinity and even in Axie. Like the misconception is like everyone who comes in as a player, earns SLP, and that's what they do. There's a lot of different things that people are doing. There are people who are breeding Axes to sell them to new players. There are content creators who are like driving massive audiences to Axie, which is now the 50th most watched game on Twitch right now, for example. Um, yeah. So what I'm seeing is that as the metaverse grows bigger and bigger, the creator economy goes along with it, and now there's a host of things you can do. You can be a community builder and have a way to monetize it with crypto. For example, I can be an avatar fashion designer and make clothes for the avatars that people are inhabiting in crypto voxels and in sandbox. I can be, of course, a crypto artist and make a living selling my art in these virtual worlds. So this is the part that really excites me the most, like being able to express your creativity as a person, finding your niche online and having a way to monetize it, maybe as an NFT, as part of a tokenized community, as part of a DAO. This is the future that really I want to help and be part of.
I completely agree. I think the creator aspect of it, what I'm looking forward to the most is in these metaverse, we're gonna have. Because I mean, you can do things in the metaverse that you can't do in any other games, or because of limitations and because of game rules. I guess in a sense, it can be more liberating owning a part of that game, and dictating what not dictating, but having a say in how you want that game to go forward next, what you want to see in the future. And what I'm most excited about in the creator context is the architect role. I think, because the architect role, when you say we have this basically Ready Player One, we're gonna see a lot of crazy things. Like I've seen floating upside down pyramids, in the metaverse, and I'm like, wow, that is sick. I've seen like an upside down waterfall. I'm like, how do I swim up that or dive down that? And they're making things that you've never seen before come true in the metaverse, and you can play it. You can basically run it. So I think that's gonna invite a lot of the traditional people who have never touched blockchain before in, because in lands like crypto voxels or sandbox, it's relatively straightforward how you have to build. And I guess because of currently some of the limitations, people get very creative, very creative. And yeah, just like Gabby said, it's just going to attract this whole wave of new creators who maybe have never been interested in the blockchain before, but now they see a new way of not only monetizing, but also, I guess building a sort of portfolio. I mean, I myself, I have to admit, after investing in Sandbox, buying land, I've been looking at studios that could build for me, because I'm not a builder, I'm not a master. I don't play Minecraft like my cousins do. At first, I wanted to call my cousin up and be like, "Hey, can you build something for me?" And then I thought, hang on a second. If I just spend this much on someone who does this professionally, I'll have a much better result, and not shout at my cousin potentially. So, but yeah, I'm really excited to yeah, this. I guess it's the market and the community that's going to grow out of it.
Yeah, the other thing that really excites me is that the like building on crypto democratizes access to economic opportunities regardless of like location, race, color. I mean, there is some like minimum bar for access. You do need pretty much a phone or a computer with internet access. But beyond that, you can be anonymous, pseudonymous in rural Philippines where the Axie revolution started that introduced play to earn to the rest of the world. You can be in in Latin America and make a really good living on par with basically the rest of the world, because it like the blockchain doesn't care where you're from. It only asks that you contribute in a way that adds value to your community, and you get paid for that. And I think that's just the most wonderful thing in the world.
Oh, I love
Yeah,
that.
especially when when we talk about tokenomics, and what interests me a lot is how these games are gonna sustain themselves. So before I invest in any of the games, I look at the white paper. I look at what the founders have to say, the developers have to say, and it's not all the same. So, crypto voxels, for example, to my knowledge, they have no land limit yet. They have no total land supply, I guess you could call it. Whereas Sandbox, there is a finite number, which is why I guess, I mean, there's high demand in crypto voxels, but in Sandbox, it just sells out in seconds, like seconds every wave. So yeah, I guess I also look at that part because it's about sustainability for me in the long run, and contributing not just in a short amount of time, but I guess to stake uh, your crypto into the projects that you believe in. That really interests me as well.
Yeah, definitely. And lots of great insight on opportunities from you guys. But maybe kind of expanding from that, what are some of the limitations that you all might see currently preventing some of these opportunities right now?
Okay, limitations. I guess we are still very early in building out like what the onboarding looks like, and it is actually hard for people to get access to a wallet and kind of be an entry point to this world right now. So the technical barrier is still pretty high, and the way we've gotten around this is to teach people how to play the game first, and then when there's money that they can cash out, they kind of are very motivated to learn crypto after. But I think as just it's just something that as time goes along and the next generation of products get built out, then the UX gets better and better. If you remember having to connect to the internet with a modem in the late 90s, we're probably somewhere similar to that right now. But I'm very much a technological optimist, so I think that as the UX gets better, as time goes by, we obsess less about the kind of technical features of L1 chains, which TPS is better to what are the benefits this drives for people. And yeah, I think we're pretty much on our way there.
I think personally, the UX is a big one for me because depending on the metaverse or the game, it could be click here and enter the metaverse, or it could be you have to install this and then do this and then do that and then you're in the game. So I think the UX is going to get better and better, like Gabby said, and that's going to bring a lot of adoption. But also, what I'm looking forward to are the big players, and there are already big players in the space, but coming into the blockchain gaming space with different genres of games. Right now, I guess it's some limitations in blockchain technology that doesn't allow us to get into, and it's just a matter of time to me, that doesn't let us dive into certain genres of games. But I do believe that will change as we continue to grow in this space in the next few years. So the games that are available to us right now aren't as varied or as wide, or maybe some would say as exciting as traditional AAA games, for example.
Right. So we're basically at the very foundational stages of what blockchain gaming can fundamentally become. And like, as you both said, the user experience is still sort of basic. But what is interesting is how you've both cited that this format of gaming is going to enable adoption for like later down the line, where I think a lot of people who haven't really looked into this space too much would assume that they are already blockchain natives and therefore have gotten into blockchain gaming rather than the opposite, which I think is super interesting, because I do personally foresee a future where when this user experience does hit a certain level or a certain quality, the vast majority of players probably won't really be that consciously aware of what sort of technology they're actually interacting with. They're strictly focused on the game, and it's going to be seamless in terms of, cashing out whatever value they manage to generate. To dig more into, this play to earn model and what it's done in the rural Philippines, which is what really put it under the international spotlight, I want to ask you both what sort of implications you guys feel this has more broadly, and especially for Asia in particular, especially given, the Philippines and Indonesia are developing economies where this sort of format's really taking off.
Yeah, so I think this just really puts a different scale of economic opportunity for people in Southeast Asia. Before, especially here in the Philippines, a huge industry has been built off the back of outsourcing. And let's just, like, at the end of the day, outsourcing is I can get the same job done in this country cheaper, right? And we've had a lot of good jobs in the Philippines before that. It's employed millions of people, but at the end of the day, like, they're paying you to do something cheaper than they would pay someone else in another country. And the play to earn kind of turns that over in its head, whereas it offers the same economic opportunity wherever you are in the world. So now this skill that so many Filipinos have, gaming, really good at games, never made money at them because they're not good at making money from games. They're just good at playing games. Now you're earning a base level of income from this that is honestly just astounding. Like, we're seeing 4 or 5 times minimum wage from people playing Axie Infinity. And I believe this is just the beginning. When you go up to higher level tasks as kind of building out economies in the game, maybe you're a guild leader, maybe you're creating buildings, maybe you're a content creator inside the game. I think better economic opportunities await for you. And again, it doesn't matter whether you're in the Philippines or you're in Indonesia or in the US. these economic opportunities are available to everyone. And the nature of the Philippines, where it's very social, very good at gaming, now these skills are monetizable. I think you're just gonna see a wave of creativity that's unleashed, that has been always been there but not monetizable before. So it's been kind of suppressed under, oh, I have to go get a real job. This can only be a hobby. Now that you can actually make money from your creativity, then you're just gonna see so much creativity unleashed.
Yeah, it really gives you a good reason to buy a good gaming PC. Finally, no, it's for work. It really is. It really is for work. I'm making money, so it makes the argument much easier. Saying I could win this much, because I think Gabby's right. In Indonesia, for example, I know that for several games, and I actually helped a charity here in Bali arrange one of these. They have gaming tournaments, where they set up a LAN party. Sometimes it's offline, but because of the pandemic, they hold it online, and then there's a prize pool money. So you pay to enter the tournament, and there's a first, second, third prize. So we already see a lot of that in Indonesia, and I think this is gonna take it 2 steps further or 3 steps further, not just to the next step, because it's not just, oh, we have to partake in this tournament, and if we lose, we get nothing. No, it's not that. It's everyone gets a piece of the cake, and the more you put in, the more you get out of it. I guess you can yield. But what really interests me is how they're. I'm curious to how the balance is going to be in regards to premium stuff. So premium items or premium in-games items to versus and time spent on that game. And I think this largely depends on the game, but it's just game mechanics and uh, game economics. I'm really interested to see how that ties to blockchain economics and tokenization, and see what models are sustainable for both, that work with both.
I think what's also interesting about it is that both of you have looked into, the impact of this within Indonesia and the Philippines respectively, but it's not really where the international attention is coming from. I feel like in terms of these community level interactions with blockchain gaming, it flies so far under the radar that it's strange when it kind of bumps up against the surface and people start to pay attention to it. So I was looking more into why is it that the emergence of these digital economies are so much stronger in developing countries versus developed ones? Like, do you think it's because of the leapfrogging potential in terms of, people aren't really focused on the same step-by-step process of technological adoption? Or is it because of the earning potential itself?
I think the earning potential is the largest part of it. So right now we're giving the opportunity through games like Axie to give people who are, a lot of them were unemployed, laid off, underemployed, and suddenly they're earning more than the people who are holding down a white collar job. It's kind of shocking, right? And like when you peel away like all the layers of, I guess, inefficiency that with businesses in the physical world, and now you have a kind of pure crypto economy where the value transfers directly to the people who are involved in that economy without a lot of intermediaries around the way. It's shocking to see how much money is really in the system without like tax here, withhold there, vendor here, days of negotiating. Everything is done by smart contract. You're getting value directly out. There's actually so much money in the system for everyone without all of these inefficient intermediaries, and it makes the standard of living so much higher for everyone involved that honestly I don't think this is really a developing country phenomenon anymore. Even in countries such as the US, there's a lot of people who can benefit from play to earn. And we're just starting to really scratch the surface of how many lives this can change. So right now, Axie Infinity is 1 million daily active users. Yield Guild has a community of probably 50,000 and close to 5,000 Axie scholars. This should be in the billions of people in the next 5 to 10 years. And that's kind of the opportunity that we're trying to build out.
But one thing I'd like to ask is that given this is such an early stage, and Axie Infinity is basically one of the first examples of this kind of phenomenon, as well as like coupled with the fact that there's a lot of remaining skepticism around blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies especially, what's to say that this is the trend that's going to stick, this is the thing that's going to unlock all of this potential, while I'm sure there's another camp of people saying that this is a heinous amount of wealth being concentrated into one game.
So Axie Infinity is making a lot of money right now, but it's actually keeping very little for the company behind it itself. So the interesting thing about the Axie marketplace, which is doing at least $30 million of sales every single day, is that the Axie itself is only taking a 4.25% fee, which means over 96% of the economy is owned by the player base. And with the money that is taken there, that actually grows to a community treasury, which is gonna flow back to all of the token holders, the AXS. So even then, 4.25% take rate spread out against all of the different AXS holders, you're seeing so much of the value being recycled back into its player community. And the reason why Axie is as big as it is that they kind of turned the whole model of game business models by its head. In in the game companies that are making billions of dollars a year, they're basically charging direct sales from gamers who are paying for something, and then the App Store takes their cut, and then the game developer does the rest. The player gets nothing because you get an item inside the game, but when you delete that game, you actually lose everything. You don't have any permanent value, and this just completely turns that business model on its head, provides the value first to the users, to the players, before taking anything for itself.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that even with the current business model for a lot of the games, and we see in the gaming industry, um, it's making billions. It's one of the largest industries out there. Um, and I've seen films being crowdfunded through the blockchain. I've seen charities raising funds through the blockchain, and I don't see why this can't take it. In fact, I think it's going to be one of the largest players in the blockchain space to, have adoption, mass adoption. We're talking about proper mass adoption, because for me, the final step of mass adoption is when you get paid in that. So once people are getting paid in crypto and they're cashing out, or they're investing more into it, but the point is they're getting paid into it. That, to me, that's the last step of mass adoption. So I think blockchain gaming is going to take blockchain as a whole, or at least one of the major aspects of it, to the next level of mass adoption.
I mean, that's awesome. Like, you guys are definitely visionaries in that respect, in terms of you've thought about how this big picture kind of comes together, not in just in the next 6 months or a year, which is a long time in the blockchain world, but the next 2 decades, 3 decades. Will, do you want to take away with the last question?
Yeah, sure. So before we start to wrap up, we have one last question for you all. It's kind of slightly adding on to some of your thoughts, Ruanth, but if you all could give a prediction for the next big thing in this gaming metaverse, what would you feel that would be, and why do you see that?
All right, I'll take a stab at this. We're starting to see this trend, but I think avatars and your virtual identity is just going to be a massive, massive, massive subset of the metaverse. You're seeing it now with people like speculating into their new profile pictures of punks, penguins, baby food punks, what have you. But in general, I think identity in the metaverse is going to be such a huge thing, and I may have different identities for what I'm trying to do, what world I'm living in, who I'm talking to, and I think that it's going to be less and less your physical identity and more like a persona that you're crafting across the metaverse, which may be different personas depending on who you want to present yourself as. And this has really major implications. I think like Facebook took us on a 15-year detour of like real world identity, which was important at that time. But I think the metaverse is going to show us that like what you do in the metaverse, the actions that you perform on the blockchain matter more than who you are in the real world.
Yeah,
that's sick.
we're
So
seeing
well
that
put.
a lot already. We're seeing that it's the fact that you can't erase, you can't erase it. It's the fact that you can only add on to it. I'm gonna take a stab at it too. I think I would look out for. So let me give a real world example first, so this makes sense. One of my favorite gaming companies, Nintendo, they have these things called amiibos, and amiibos are essentially figurines that have a. I always get this wrong. A chip. I'm just gonna say a chip because I know it's very similar to NFT, but they have a NC, near field technology, NFC chip inside them, and you can scan it onto multiple games. And when you do that, it gives you different items. So I could go to game A with an amiibo. I'll scan it, and then it'll give me an in-game item. And then I can go to a different game that is, of course, Nintendo as well, and it'll give me a special item for that game as well. So I think the next big thing in blockchain gaming is when we see an entity or a company or a DAO that creates such a game where assets that are on the Ethereum or any blockchain, for let's say Tezos blockchain, can be moved to other games. So to me, that's going to be huge because already we're investing, like Gabby said, in games where we get nothing in return. Essentially, when as soon as we delete that game, it's gone. But imagine if you could move all your assets from this game to another game made possible by the blockchain. So that to me is going to be massive, massive. It's going to, if not double, maybe triple the sales that we see already of people buying in-game items.
So I guess the conclusion we're gathering is that we really are only at the absolute start of all of this. And
Absolutely.
we're all
Yes.
excited to see what happens next, whether it be in the form of creating and crafting our new digital identities, which is totally non-deletable, which is a scary idea, as well as the possibilities of intergame asset transfers, which is also a very, very novel idea. Thank you both so much for sharing your insights in terms of your predictions, in terms of why you think these trends are unfolding the ways they are. This was a great conversation. Will, do you have anything else to add before we sign off?
No, I think we're good to wrap up here.
All right. Well, thanks so much, guys. Thanks to the listeners for tuning in. Goodbye.
Thanks
Thank you
for having us.